Okay, we'd like to welcome on our next guest. He is the defensive coordinator for Albion College, D3 school based out of Michigan. We have Mark Sheridan. Marky, how we doing, brother?
I'm doing well. How you guys doing?
Good. I love the excitement.
Yeah.
Man, well, we appreciate you joining us. I know we've been talking about this for a little while, so happy to get you on.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, and we're looking forward to it. So to jump right in, obviously I know your older brother Nick. He's the offensive coordinator for Indiana. I'm curious, who's the better athlete between the two of you?
Yeah, I think Nick is. I've seen him play pickup basketball. I think he's one of the better pickup basketball players I've ever seen or been around. Yeah, very crafty, good shooter, tenacious
mid-range
defender.
jumper, or like where's his sweet spot? He's right around the elbow, or is he baseline?
He's a 3-point shooter, but he's got pretty good, pull up off the dribble. And he can take it to the hole. So he's pretty good. Plus he's taller than I am.
Does he finish?
Yeah. He's a big he calls a lot of fouls.
Really?
No, I'm just kidding.
No, I was about to say.
Yeah. I do remember I was visiting my brother at Michigan, so I was coming out of high school, and they were playing a softball game, like a IM softball game, and he was playing third base, and he was just throwing missile. Like, this is how people get hurt. Seriously. Like, you take a softball to the shin and you're in some serious pain.
Well, forget about the shin. Who cares about the shin? Think about right in the temple. If like I'm a base runner, I hit it to third base, and I'm running down, and you got freaking 90 miles an hour of a 12-inch softball right into the temple. I mean, yikes.
I'm only saying that because I got hit with a shin one time with a softball.
Yeah, we always go back and forth about who was the better high school baseball player, but Nick's a pretty good athlete.
I wasn't expecting that, but we'll take it.
Okay.
So, defensive coordinator, at Albion, you played at Albion.
I did.
And you graduated and you became the cornerbacks coach right out of the gate. What was that like, having your own room at age 23?
Yeah, it was very unique, especially because I just got done playing with all those guys except for the incoming freshmen. It was good. And kind of how we had set it up was our head coach was the defensive coordinator. So he ran a lot of the meetings. He did a lot of like full defensive meetings.
I guess did you guys meet as as more of like a full defensive unit a lot, or at least as like probably DBs a lot, or
we did. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So we did that a bunch. And obviously he had been coaching forever and he knew all 11. So he was really good at that. And so it kind of took some of the pressure off of me, but, as far as like the practice and individual time and all that practice time, that was good for me to kind of structure and organize all that stuff and then learn how to teach. It's one thing to do it but to articulate it and explain it to the guys and coach them up and get them to do it how you want to do it. That was a little different. So that was a good learning experience for me.
Did you find yourself, sorry, not to jump in, but did you find yourself, I guess, with that, as you progress, did you learn to maybe speak less, or did you have to speak more as a coach? Because I mean, there's that kind of fine line, when you're first starting out, sometimes you can try to maybe say too much in a period instead of just letting the guys kind of figure it out. What was your kind of philosophy there?
Yeah, I think early on, because I was still able to do it, I think I showed them a bunch.
Yeah, I love that.
So that was good. And now I'm better with my words and I can kind of articulate and show them a little bit, but it's half speed compared to them. And but yeah, early on it was probably more doing than explaining. Where now I feel better, I can articulate how I want them to do it and all that stuff. So
quick philosophy question for you. As a player, I mean, you're a safety, but I mean, I'm sure you kind of came down, I guess. Was your defensive philosophy more zone-oriented or more man-oriented? As a safety, were you asked to come down in the box quite a bit, or were you more of a free safety? And then a follow-up question, do you like man-to-man, or do you like teaching more zone principles?
Yeah, that's a really good question. When I played, we ran a bunch of quarters. So the corners got a quarter of the field, safeties had a quarter of the field. And then I played we called it weak safety. And in our defense now we call it free safety, but it's the weak side safety, the boundary safety, the less athletic one. So I'm just kidding. But so I did come down Yeah, yeah, exactly. Get the edge. I did come down a little bit depending on the offensive set, how the offense lined up.
Yeah.
I would kind of get in the box and then we were like a quarters match team. So like if the guy you're eligible or your offensive player is running vertical at you, you're going to match him man to man. But if he ran shallow, in or out, you were going to zone off. Yeah.
I guess are you guys still more of a quarters based team?
We are. Yep. So we ran a ton of quarters this year. And then this offseason, we're looking into more zone stuff, some more middle field close, spot dropping.
Yeah.
But we run quarters how I did in college. That's how I learned it. Even when I GA, that's how we did it. And then Justin Sweeney, our DB's coach, he learned quarters the same way. So that was what we knew, and that's how we play it. And our guys got good at it, so we kept running it. But
So speaking of your GA years, you left Albion to go to Purdue as a GA. What kind of perspective did you get from being, the cornerback coach at Albion, that once you got to Purdue, you really wanted to strive and focus on as a GA?
When I got to Purdue, it was kind of one of those things, you don't know. And it wasn't a shock. And I'm probably being harsh on myself, I was terrible at first.
Well, I guess let's peel back that onion a little bit, because I feel like everyone would be critical of themselves, because it's an eye-opening experience, right?
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, it was great. And
it was great. Loved it.
Best time of my life.
But and my dad coaches football, and Nick, and they both try to give me a heads up and hey, this is what to expect, all that stuff. But really, until you really do it, you don't know fully. When I first got to Purdue, I was more so trying to learn how to use the video systems. We had never used Exos at Albion. We had Huddle.
Yeah.
I was trying to learn
right there
computer systems just to be functional as a GA. You know what I mean? We used PowerPoint for the playbook. So those drawings, all that stuff. And I was really just trying to learn how to be a coach throughout the week, the work it takes to put into it, organizing yourself, your schedule, all that stuff. Learning offense, because you got to break down film. I played defense. You watch film as a defensive player, but, I wasn't well versed in what run plays were called. You know what I mean? Plus, you got to learn a whole new things and all that stuff. But maybe that's a bad answer, but I was really just trying to learn how to be a GA.
No, not what it is. It's an honest answer, and I think a lot of people can relate to it. Me, for one, I can relate to that. It was an eye-opening experience to all of a sudden I have to learn, how much was actually sitting behind a desk,
sure, and
being creative with whatever film technology we were using. I think it was DV Sport, but we've done, there's a few of them out there. And then also the different programs, Microsoft for practice notes, Excel for game planning,
for sure.
Visio, PowerPoint. All this stuff that is technology based, that if, you're not well versed, you're doing a lot of trial and error, which eats up a lot of your time.
Right.
Yeah. Just to put some stuff into perspective from a corporate standpoint. So I had an internship going into my senior year. And I had no experience in Excel, zero experience in Excel. And I come into this internship, and I had no idea that you could auto sum, all your cells. So I'm over here just crunching numbers on a calculator, having no idea. And this wasn't an unpaid internship. It was pretty bad. So I feel your pain when it comes to picking things up out of the gate.
Yeah, but
don't judge me on that.
Yeah, but it was good for me because, it doesn't stop. You're going to play a game Saturday, or you're going to have practice during the spring. So you got to figure it out. And it was good. And luckily, there were guys on staff that, sometimes they let guys, kind of go down that rabbit hole and not drown, but they just kind of that dude stinks. You know what I mean? There were guys at Purdue that they were hey, we need you, so we got to help you get better. So I was super fortunate to be around guys like that.
Well, also you'd also hope that just good nature and people,
no doubt.
Trying to help. Yeah, but no, I get what you're saying. There's some people who's hey, come on, Rook, get it done. And you're just like,
right. Yeah, no doubt.
How do I control C? What am I doing here? Just tell me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice little coffee there. Nice, Webs. Good short
like
keys. So how long, was it weeks or months? How long did you feel where you were actually comfortable and confident in what you were doing as a GA?
Yeah. Oh, it was months. Probably the second half of the season, I was kind of like, okay, I got a grasp on things. I feel like I'm contributing. It wasn't probably until halfway through the season, probably until we got to conference play, where I was like, all right, I can do this.
Yeah, I can feel you because you're still trying to figure out your schedule, right? You're still trying to figure out how that all kind of plays out, and week by week can be somewhat monotonous or like a routine, but things change, and especially when you're new trying to figure it out, man, you're just always on high alert. That's very exhausting.
Yeah, and then you get the class stuff. So at Purdue, we had to go to class, and it is what it is. I mean, it was kind of a pain, but it takes up time. It's just time. It takes up time.
Yeah.
So you got to work around that.
It's not just class. It's getting there, right? It's taking you away from the office where you have stuff to do, but then you also have homework or papers or whatever it may be.
Right.
How many credits do you remember how many classes you had to take there?
I didn't start classes till the fall at Purdue. I took 3.
Yeah, that's a lot. Yeah. And so you're doing it in season 3 classes.
Yeah. One was like Monday night, and that was like a 3-hour class. That was kind of a grind, but we didn't.
That's like Monday night's the heavy kind of film breakdown.
Yeah. Night too, so we were there late. Yeah, we were there late Monday night, and then I think my other classes were like Thursday morning, maybe Friday morning. So it really wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
As far as like taken away from the office, but.
You mentioned that you went to Arkansas, and then you eventually made your way, like you said, back to Albion. But just doing some research, one of the things they said was, you have a great defensive mind. I'm curious, like, how do you describe what having a great defensive mind means?
Yeah. So you guys called my mom? No, just kidding. I don't know. I mean, you can relate to this. Like, as I came up, or I'm coming up, I'm young still, but, you kind of come into like football consciousness. I don't know if I said that word right, but so, when I first got to Purdue, we'd be watching film, and it more or less, it was like 22 guys running around. You had some kind of like, oh, that's cover 3, that's quarters. And then my first year at Arkansas, it started to get a little clearer, okay, he's playing with that leverage. That guy should have fit into that gap. Okay, he's reading this. This is his pre-snap read. And then my second year at Arkansas, we put in a new defense. And so I was kind of able to be there from ground zero as we put it all together. As a GA, you just, you're not contributing a bunch. You're kind of just listening and taking notes. Mm-hmm. But it was good to kind of hear from, this is how we're going to play this down block from this technique.
Yeah. You're getting into truly the building blocks of the defense. Yeah.
Yes. And I was in there as these discussions were happening. And so I got to hear how the defensive line coach thought about it versus or how we thought about it with the coordinator, and all the way through from the D-line to the secondary. And that really helped me kind of get a complete picture of how all 11 guys on defense are fitting together. Just kind of being that 17 year at Arkansas, just kind of hearing everything. I felt good about how all 11 guys work together. I don't know. So I feel, I don't know if that's the defensive how 11 defensive guys work together to get a stop.
That's what I've always been, I guess, as I progressed too, is what I was impressed by is not the simplicity of defense, because it's incredibly complex, right? But it is very simple. It's gap sound defense with solid coverage behind. Now you may run a blitz where you may be exposed if they run this one particular route or this one particular thing, right? But it's a risk you're willing to take because the odds are they don't run that play out of that formation or whatever it may be, your personnel. Yeah. But defense ultimately is gap sound defense and having your behind defenders enough to cover and knowing where you're limited. So it can be super complex, but I think of what people would say about you is, by being a strong defensive minded person, is you make a complex thing very simple. And I think that's a testament to a coach too.
from the time you guys come up with the idea, you're trying to make it as simple as you're trying to break it down or make it more concise to be as simple as it can be by the time it gets to the players.
Yeah.
So
yeah, like, sure. Hey, what happens if they do this? What happens if they do this? What happens if they do this? And then you say, okay, well, we're not going to play this what if game forever, but these are the three main things they could do. And then, okay, we're good. Let's move on.
Yeah. And we're pretty open with our players. Like if something's hard, like you were saying that, I bring a field pressure and if they run outside zone to the boundary,
yeah,
you might be in trouble unless someone runs it down. But, we tell them like, hey, this is the call. This is your key. Boom, boom, boom. This is what you're going to do. If they do this, it might be a little tough, or like just hey, heads up. If they, this guy runs this route on you, you don't have good leverage to line up. But we're not doing it. But like you were saying, we're not doing it to defend a what if. We're doing it because 80% of the time they run this, and so we're defending that. Yeah.
Cool.
So
yeah.
So what type of things, as a defensive coordinator now, do you look at going into the year, like tangible things that you really want to achieve as a defense?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I'm not big on statistical goals or circumstantial goals. So like, to me, a circumstantial goal would be like give up 24 points a game, which, nowadays that's pretty solid. Because if they score 4 touchdowns or they get 2 pick sixes and they got 28 points on the board, yeah, you guys are done. You know what I mean? Like, is it a wash? Is it a loss for the day? So we wanted our last snap of the season to be our best snap of football. And like how you achieve that is working hard. So whether we have a great game, give up 14 points, 3-4 turnovers, we got to go back to work. Whether we give up 50 points, can't stop the run. Well, what are you got to go back to work the next day. So we talked a bunch about that. And that one was easy to apply to life. If you're a father one day and you have a great day at the zoo with your son or something, you're not done. You got to keep working to be a good father. You know what I mean? It's like, oh,
all done. Good luck.
Okay, he loves me today. All right, I'm done. So you got to keep working, and that applies to anything. You might not be good at Excel, but can't stop.
You better believe I'm an Excel whiz at this point in my life. Yeah.
No, I'm sure. Yeah, because you kept working. So we talked a bunch about that. We didn't really talk about statistical goals. We just wanted our last snap of football to be our best snap of football. And the crazy thing is, it was a sack fumble to secure a victory. It's funny how things work out like that. And then we talk a bunch about, like, obviously, effort. We talk about taking the field. So, like, obviously you're not trying to walk on the field. When you leave the sideline, you're taking the field. You're running. And we spun it as, like, a mental thing, too. Like, when we take the field, it's ours. Like, we're taking the field. The offense gets to come out here. We're going to let you line up, but that's about it. And then we talk about earning your break. So you're not just saying run on, run off. There's a phrase to it. And so we just say you're earning your break. Well, why am I running? Well, you got to go earn your break. You're not done yet. You're not in your break. So we talk about that stuff a bunch. And then effort. Obviously, that's a big. I mean, you can play defensive football. If you don't play with good effort, you're probably going to get smacked. And then the final thing was, we talked a bunch about playing together. You're a unit. So, like, we always told guys, like, we're not setting up defenses to get, we got a kid named Mitch Aronson. We're not setting up plays to get Mitch sacks. We're trying to set up defenses to get stops. We're trying to prevent the team from scoring. So, like, everything we did was around getting stops. So, like, we just tried to take, like, the selfishness out of it. Like, hey, you might get 5 sacks this week, and that'd be great because that means we're probably playing well. But if Timmy on the other side of the ball gets 5 sacks this week, Albion College defense got 5 sacks this week, so that's good.
You say these things maybe in a team meeting and you repeat them every meeting. So not only are they being reinforced on the practice field, they're being reinforced verbally. Were there things that you were doing in practice, maybe outside of practice, that would promote that all 11 guys on defense work together other than just preaching it? Were there drills you would do? Were there things you'd put them in situations that maybe it forced them to kind of come together? Or, was there anything like that physically that you would do to promote that mentality?
We did like pursuit drill. I don't know if that really counts.
Did you like that as a player?
No. And honestly, we didn't do it that much because during team reps, we were running them to the ball. You know what I mean? We're like, hey, run. And then you were running with them. I wouldn't really say it was a lot of like, we would show clips in the meeting and it would be like a guy spilling a block and he wouldn't make the tackle, but because he spilled the block, it went to this guy and we fit up the run properly for a 0-yard gain.
Yeah.
And so
acknowledging selfless plays, right? Selfless plays.
We wouldn't praise, obviously you praise the guy that makes a tackle, but the shining guy you were trying to shine a light on was the guy that did his job well and helped the defense be successful. And then that was kind of, and then we would explain things, because there were times you try and get, you line up a certain way and try and set the protection to get a certain guy on an island. You try and get your best linebacker on a running back or a D end, one-on-one with a tackle. We would explain these to the guys. I think if you're open with them, it's hard for a kid to feel slighted, I guess. So we were super open with them. And then we would spotlight guys that you did your job here. And then we would show clips where you didn't do your job and we got burned on it.
Wait, it wasn't this all positive like rainbows and butterflies during film sessions?
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah. I do get real positive towards the end of the week.
Of course, you got to build them up, right?
Oh, I'm trying to get them feeling like King Kong by Saturday.
So do you have how much energy are you bringing on the field or in the meeting room? Are you a fiery coach? Are you more quiet and soft-spoken?
It kind of depends on the period. Like walkthrough and stuff, I'm not screaming. I try and be very matter-of-fact as often as I can. So like walkthrough, or like when it's more of a teaching tempo, you're just trying to you're loud because they got to hear you, but you're just trying to be matter of fact with them. And then during team periods and stuff, our whole staff does a really good job of getting it cranked up pretty good. Plus, fortunately, my body still allows me, like I can run around and stuff during team periods. And
do you wear cleats? Do you wear cleats out there?
I'm not a cleat guy. I do tie my shoes though. I make sure I tie my shoes.
Okay.
I'm not a cleat guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, during team periods and kind of when that tempo calls for it, we get it cranked up pretty good. But I'll get fired up like if we don't have good effort. Because that's super controllable. Obviously, that's a cliche. You get control over your effort, but that's the only time I really get into a kid. And then we try and catch kids doing it right. So, the old saying, you're coaching it or allowing it, which is super true, but it's not negative, but, we just try and the opposite of that would be catch them doing it right. So if they're doing it right, obviously you're going to allow the kid to do it more, but
call them out on it, let them know.
For sure. Oh, you're loving them up, you're hooting and hollering. So we try and catch guys doing stuff right all the time. Plus it's more of a positive environment that way, but kid, same thing. And so going back to your question about how physically on the practice field, how we talked about doing it 11 as one, like a kid might not make the tackle, but if he did his job really well, I might go run up to him, jump on him, hoot and holler, and he'd be like, "What the hell?" And you're like, "Yo, well, you spilled the block," or you held your gap, and so that's one way to do it too.
Yeah, I like it.
Despite Albion's season moving to next fall, going into your second season as the defensive coordinator, what are some things that you're really excited about with this team?
I think we got a lot of returners, fortunately for us. And I think our guys are really hungry. We had a pretty good year last year. We went 8-2, but we finished second in the conference in Division III. Unless you win your conference, there's a very small chance you're going to make it to the playoffs. So our guys are super hungry. I think they're looking forward to getting after it. I think you're just going to see a hungry team, and I think they'll be real focused. try and go 5-0, because I think we're going to crown a conference champion. I don't know if I'm supposed to tell you that, but I don't think that's going. I don't think that's going to be. I don't think you'll get a Twitter notification on ESPN.
Bing, 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 bing.
MIAA. Going to crown a champion this spring.
So what have been some bright spots, with pushing back the season? Some stuff that you're thinking optimistically about.
Yeah, that's a really, really good question. And unfortunately, I think our staff is very, just tell us what we can do, and we're going to try and make the best of it. So, when they pushed the season back, I think we kind of saw it coming, but, it wasn't like we wallowed and, sat in our sorrows for a couple of days. We just kind of started to get to work. So, recruiting's always, that stuff never stops, but you can kind of get ahead of it, especially, the guys that are played as juniors. So they have junior film and you can evaluate all that stuff. So you're just getting ahead on that. And actually, our DB coach, since we're going to practice in the fall, it's almost like having a fall camp and then like a 2-month break. Mm-hmm. So we can try out a bunch of stuff or tweak some things, or, and then you get 2 months to kind of quality control the film and get it ready for the season. In the spring.
Not to spill the beans on you, but do you think like you said, kind of experiment? Mm-hmm. Do you find yourself, it's one of those things, you got a good thing going, right? You're a quarters team, how much do you want to experiment? And then with that, are you doing other professional development? Do you know if other people, yourself included, other people on the staff, talking to other coaches and running ideas by them, or how does that look?
Yeah. I definitely going to experiment. We, our first 3 or 4 installs, it'll be quarter stuff. We run quarters concept even with our 5-man pressure stuff. But yeah, like Justin Sweeney's our other full-time assistant on defense. He loves football. He's always watching film. This year we watched Wisconsin. Nick gave us film on them, so we had 12 games, and
Jimmy Leonard.
Yeah, and so that's the nice thing about football is you can just watch film and you learn, and then you can take it and put it into your words, or you put your twist on it. But so we'll do some stuff that they were doing, and then I was talking to Nick one time, and he just talked about another defensive team in the conference. He had mentioned that he just felt like they had a really good system, but they had answers for everything.
Yeah.
It might not be the perfect call, but if you're running a certain play, after a series or 2, they're going to be running this defense. And so going into the second year, that's something we wanted to kind of get together and just make sure we had more answers without having it be too much for the guys. So we'll do a couple different things. You quality control, watch your own film, and kind of, all right, here's the top 2 or 3 runs that kind of hurt us last year. Here's the top 2 or 3 pass concepts that hurt us. What kind of things can we do to where if people are smart and they're watching film of us, they're gonna try and do it. Yep. And this is going to be our answer to it. So we'll add a couple of different coverages and all that stuff. So we definitely did that. And then, just me personally, I'm super fortunate. My dad is a defensive coach. He's coached for a really long time and at a high level. So I can just call him. Awesome. And obviously you want to reach out to other people because you want to network and all that stuff. And he's not the only person to ever coach defensive football before. Obviously, there's more than one way to do things. But it's just, just super fortunate in that way. If I got a question about, he always seems like he's always like, yeah, we ran that back in 01 at Notre Dame. I'm like, how do you remember that? You know what I mean? He's just a super smart guy. And so that's for me personally, that's been great and super helpful as far as learning more football. And you watch a new thing and you're like, hey, I was watching this team and they were doing it like this. And he was like, yeah, they might be doing that. Or we did it like this, when he was at a certain place. And it's more ideas and kind of, stimulate some thoughts.
Yeah, sure.
So, and you've touched on your dad and your brother. How is being the younger one and having them two in your life, you talk X's and O's, but from a philosophy standpoint, how has that kind of shaped how you approach, your players or your other coaching or recruits, whatever it might be?
Yeah. It's been awesome. My dad is a little more, he listens and is a little more understanding, where Nick is not critical. He's not as he plays devil's advocate a lot. So, if I come to him with an idea, he might, spin in which is great, because then you get it from different ways. And
are they called a contrarian? Isn't that term for that? Like, where it's a person who just always like plays devil's advocate.
I don't know what it's called, but
let's call it that. Sounds good.
As a person, I just think he does it because I think he knows it's good for me, and I think he wants me to do well. But it's been awesome. But for all those things you said, philosophically, recruiting, meetings, teaching, schematics, it's all good. Plus, in myself included, we've been fortunate enough to be exposed to other good coaches and great coaches. So you just pull bits and pieces, like I got stuff that we talk about that's from Indiana and Tom Allen. I got stuff that's Greg Schiano's stuff that when my dad was at the Buccaneers. I got it from there, and then I got stuff from when I was at Arkansas, and you just kind of piece it all together and make it your own. But it's been great because it's, I guess if you got a bunch of bankers together, they'd be talking about banking. They'd be better bankers for it, whereas you get
mastermind group.
Yeah, you get coaches together, they talk about coaching, and I know I'm better for it. I'm sure they listen to me and they're like, geez, dude, catch up. But
we were talking about that stuff back in the 80s, kid.
Yeah, no doubt.
Nick's on the offensive side of the ball, and you're on the defensive side. Has it been discussed from a brother standpoint, maybe getting together at some point in your guys' careers?
Yeah, I think his wife Sarah's brought it up a couple of times.
Great girl, by the way. Great person.
Yeah, she's awesome. Yeah. I don't know if I've ever asked him or my dad, like, hey, would you hire me one day? I would hope they wouldn't feel obligated to do that. I hope they hire me because I'm competent, and obviously trust and loyalty would be through the roof. But I think that would be super fun. I think for me, it would be cool just to be around him and his family. And, I'm sure my mom would love it. But it would be awesome. Yeah, it'd be very cool. Plus, like I said, I don't think he holds any punches as far as telling me how it is about me. So I don't think he would hold back if I was one of his assistants or something like that. But
yeah, in fact, you might even be like the whooping boy, the whipping boy, what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, come on, Mark, jeez.
Don't make me put you in a headlock again.
We were
like I'm 12 years old. Still picking on you.
I had braces, man.
You touched on it a little bit, just your experience as a GA at Purdue and how you grew. But, looking back as a cornerbacks coach at age 23 and where you're at now, what areas would you say you've really improved and you feel a lot more confident from year one to where you're at now?
Yeah, I would probably say talking in front of your room or the defense. By the time I got back to Albion, I felt very good and very confident getting in front of a defense and speaking to them and trying and get a message across and get them sold on the message or teaching a defense and having it stick with them. That way they could, do it at full speed on the field. That would probably be that and organization just in general.
Yeah, those are two big things. You got to be able to speak. You got to be organized. Yeah. Organization is such an underrated quality that
is it,
I
though?
don't think. Yeah,
really, is it underrated?
When you have like a ton of stuff, like an underappreciated quality in some person. Sorry, that's probably a little bit better. And you don't realize it until you see it. You see somebody else that's like super organized. Everything's in a row, and you're like, wow, I don't have any folders on my email inbox. I just, Well,
I mean, football is crazy too, because it can become structured. It can become well organized where you're very process oriented. And I think you'll become a better coach with it. But also, I wish I would have been that way as a player, more of that instead of letting week by week circumstances kind of dictate. I'm watching 3 hours of tape this week. I'm watching 4 hours of tape that week because it feels like it's a bigger game. It's like, no, you should be watching the same amount of tape. You should have a system in place. you're watching 2 hours of this, third downs, you're watching 2 hours of this. And like, if you need to tweak it a little bit week by week, you can, but you have a structure in place. So I mean, it'll only serve you well. And then also the players too, they'll pick up on that.
So I have one last question. And it's really about, kids that are going through this circumstance. You played at Albion and you went through the recruiting process. Webbs also went through the recruiting process. I guess we all did. But, a kid that might miss out on their junior year, maybe their spring gets canceled too, and they're a junior or going into their senior year, like what's some of the stuff that you would recommend high school kids to do during this time when they're trying to get, looked at from any school?
Yeah. One way to do it is just kind of express interest in playing college football to your high school coach. I think we do a pretty good job as a staff is reaching out to high school coaches and, who your guys, you have 3 or 4 guys going into the conversation that about, but, do you have anybody else? And usually, if you express interest in playing college football, if you're good enough, the high school coach will help you out. Twitter is such a big thing. You can follow guys and DM them and stuff. And then just make sure you take advantage of any opportunity you get. I've heard some states are they don't have maybe football in the fall, but they're going to do like workouts. Like I think Michigan today said they're going to have 16 practices. So like immediately we were like, well, can we go to the practices? You know what I mean? Like the coaches want to recruit kids. And so, if things are going on, there's going to be college coaches that are either aware of it or there, or, get a list of the prospects that were there or video of it. We've gotten like 3 or 4 camps where they just YouTube it because we can't be there. But, reach out to the high school coach, Twitter. And then if things are available, make sure you're taking advantage of them if you have the resources to get to them or whatever. But I think there's a 7-on-7 company. They're working with MHSA, I think. This is all rumor stuff, so it doesn't hold any weight. But, trying to set up camps and like workouts that coaches can go to. We'll see if that, happens. But there'll be stuff in the fall that kids can go to. And hopefully, I'm hoping there's stuff in the fall or spring that kids can go get to. But, yeah, it'll be interesting because I feel bad because there's kids, maybe that didn't play as a sophomore, junior, and this was it for them, and they very well might be a really good player, but it'll be interesting.
A thought process I like to fall back on a little bit with this, and it's definitely easier said than done. It's easier to tell somebody this than to actually do it yourself or to implement it yourself. But the idea of if you want it bad enough, you will find a way to get in front of the right people. And I think Steve and I have met and already have interviewed a lot of coaches that share that mentality of like, I'm going to send handwritten letters to these people and they may go on to deaf ears, but I'm going to do whatever I can. Quarantine, COVID, none of that matters. I will find a way. I will make my own drill tape and send it directly to coaches in their DM or whatever. They'll find a way. So just any players out there listening, don't feel like you have no options here. You do. It just may be a different route than say what was traditionally done before.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the same thing, could be said for GAing. I sent out like 70, 75 emails to guys like 2 or 3 times before I graduated and then after I graduated. And I had connections, my dad and my brother. So I was, kind of born on like third base in the coaching world. But if you want a GA, you got to reach out to people and connect and try and get your foot in the door somewhere. I was just fortunate to do it and then, keep going. But I think
but you create your own, luck. And if you're in the game long enough, where you're at now, the foot's already in the door. You're getting the second one in now.
Yeah. I appreciate that.
Yeah, of course. Well, Mark, we appreciate your time, man. Really, really enjoyed today. I'm looking forward to seeing how Albion does in the spring. Hopefully everything goes smooth. And I know Webbs will have some stuff to say.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys having me. This was a cool experience for me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, Steve knows me too well. He knows I always have to have the last word here. No, just for yourself, what you talk about Twitter, people hitting you up on Twitter. What's your Twitter handle? What other social media are you on? Where can players or other coaches get a hold of you? Where give us some of your handles, I guess.
Yeah, Twitter's my big one. I think it's at Coach Sheridan 15. I was listening to one of you guys' podcasts today. I was like, I should probably look at my Twitter handle.
Yeah.
And then I
kind of still said I think he still couldn't remember it.
Yeah, I'm like 99.9% sure. At Coach Sheridan. I think at one point it was at Mark Sheridan, but at Coach Sheridan 15 on Twitter. That's probably the best way to get a hold of me. I have Instagram, but that's kind of more, family and personal stuff. Yeah. But yeah, at Coach Sheridan 15 on Twitter.
Well, love it.
Yeah.
Dude, one comment. Appreciate you like every one of our tweets. So I really appreciate it.
Yeah. I mean, you guys, Steve, I met you before that one time in Chicago, and then
great time.
You guys seem like good guys, and I appreciate the podcast. I enjoy it. I figured the least I could do is click a button. So
yeah, no, and with that, anybody else that's listening, it does go a long way when you do click that like button. So I appreciate it, Mark. Seriously,
sure.
You're starting a trend here. You're part of this revolution. So thank you, man.
Good.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, we appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, guys. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, have a great night, guys.
You too.
More than a feeling, no, it's something I believe in. You light up the night, yeah, you light up the night. You got the sun in your eyes, yeah, you got the sun in your eyes.